I have leg room.
Look at that.
This is amazing. Now I need a new chair and I'm good to go.
I told you we're going to put that in the budget. Maybe we can share from that. Let's get on his case about it.
Actually, I was thinking of just walking around the office and seeing if there was a spare somewhere and just get rid of this guy. You can't even like adjust him anymore. Is Sharon not here? Oh, nice of her to let us know. I don't feel bad that her name's there and she's not. What kind of condition are those white chairs in?
I want to make it more uniform. Those are temporary.
Okay.
Yes, Patrick.
Oh, so you want
You get
10?
stuck on a little chair.
You want
Well, at least
11.
you should all get another one of these.
11 nice chairs.
You get one.
How much could 11 nice chairs cost?
I mean, overall budget, not much, but still expensive. You'd be surprised. You want a nice one? $200.
Can we make the motion to appoint this guy? Get all the people out of here.
Let's call to order the October 21st public meeting of the Tredyffrin Township Board of Supervisors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, I'd like to call to order the public hearing. This is public hearing to consider and possibly adopt ordinance H.R. 483, amending the Code of Tredyffrin Township, Section 168, Solid Waste. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have marked the following board exhibits for the hearing this evening. Board Exhibit 1 is the proof of publication of the notice that was run in the Daily Local News on October 12th, 2024. Board Exhibit 2 is the proof of publication of the notice run in the Mainline Times Suburban on October 13th, 2024. And Board Exhibit 3 is a copy of the email and distribution list to those who wish to receive public hearing notifications from the Township sent out on October 9th, 2024. Finally, Board Exhibit 4 is a copy of the ordinance itself for consideration by the Board this evening. Those are the exhibits for the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Do I hear a motion? So moved.
Second.
Second. Do you hear any board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? Sure. Go to the microphone.
Okay, it should be, yeah, it's on now. This is the, I hate to sound stupid, but I was kind of distracted, and this is the Chapter 168. Good. Yes, it's Richard Kunin, Kunin, Chairperson, Trout Creek Watershed Residents Association. I have some questions about thank you, about the proposed ordinance. This is more sensitive than I am. Sorry. First of all, I'm going to suggest and recommend that you not vote on this ordinance this evening. And the reason for that is very simple. For whatever reason, the ordinance draft text was not posted until Thursday late. I finally found it on the Township website on Friday morning. Most reasonable people could be expected not to have had the opportunity to read all 18 pages of the proposed ordinance, let alone compare it to the current ordinance, and therefore I would suggest that the community is left hopelessly uninformed about this event. I would really, truly recommend and suggest that you do not vote on this ordinance at this time. Now I'll continue with my questions about the ordinance because I happily did have an opportunity to read both ordinances and compare them in detail. First, I'd like to know if all of the members of the Board of Supervisors are as well versed in this draft ordinance as is the author. Are you? Can you explain, if I were to ask you to explain?
So, Mr. Kunin?
Yes.
What are your comments about the ordinance?
Well,
I sent you a comparison.
All right, I'll go on. All right, never mind. I will skip
I sent you a
that.
comparison. I sent you
I'll
both
indulge you
ordinances,
and
and
I'll
I
skip
sent you a
that.
comparison of the two.
Okay, I will indulge you and skip that. Now, Article 2 regarding the, let's see, regarding prohibited acts. Failure to replace the containers with their lids or covers in place in the location of collection in an orderly manner and off-road streets and sidewalks. On many occasions, I've noticed that trash cans on the day of collection, after the collection has been made, trash cans are lying on their sides. Some are upright with the lids closed, appropriately apparently, and some are left upright with the lids opened. This looks like to me something that has never been enforced. This is an ordinance, this is carried over from the last ordinance. I don't understand why you would put something into an ordinance that you can't enforce.
I'm sorry, I was asking Mr. McKenna if he wanted to.
I don't know what section is being referred to.
Section 168.13, I would presume that you, Mr. McKenna, are the author and should know it better than I do.
I'm happy to try to respond to the comments, but I could deal without the editorializing if that's
Okay,
Yeah, we're trying to work here.
let's continue.
So, Mr. Kunin, just to be clear, I sent you a direct comparison of both the old ordinance and the new ordinance.
I'm sorry?
I sent you an email with a comparison of both the old ordinance and the new ordinance.
I am,
Okay,
but you included something in the old one that was carried over to the new one that
Yes,
seems
and
to
this
have
is-
no
I'm sorry.
purpose.
Most of this is required by
That's
the
the old
DEP.
section, okay.
The reason we're doing this, just for the public, because there's a very specific issue he's trying to address, I guess.
It's a legitimate
Well,
question.
let me just finish, please.
And
I'll
we'll
let you
answer
talk.
it.
So I just want to address the public so they understand what we're talking about here. So the ordinance is being updated with requirements from the DEP. So there's very small changes. Most of it is just the old ordinance carried over with a couple small changes, which are required by the DEP so we can continue to get our grant funding, our recycling grant funding. So it's worth like $100,000 a year to the township, maybe a little less than 60 this year, something like that, in grant funding. That's why we're doing this. So just so for the public, so they understand the purpose of this amendment is about. With that, go ahead.
Okay, so there is no real response to that. You've included an ordinance that you can't, is something in the ordinance that
I'll
is
jump in
not
real quick,
enforceable.
Mr. Coonan.
Mr.
So yeah, that's in almost every trash ordinance across
I'm
the
so- I
country.
can't understand.
That language is in most trash
Yes, I
ordinances.
know, that's correct.
Throughout the Commonwealth, and a lot of, you're true, we don't, if wind blows over a garbage pail, we're not gonna cite the haulers if things, it allows us that ability if it's continuous that a hauler is not doing their right job, right? So ordinances have reasonableness and discretion, and you can't cite for everything perfectly, but to have that language in there, if there's a hauler that's not
Okay.
performing the right way, we have the ability to enforce it if we so choose.
All right, I'll accept that. That's reasonable. Okay, now. Also, under 16813, prohibited acts, it shall be unlawful for a violation or then, let's see, to collect or transport municipal waste from persons failing to source, separate recyclables. Who's going to, is that another one of those things that you put in to give you the convenience of prosecuting?
So DEP requires that, and
Okay.
when they take it to the recycling facilities, they have reports they have to file where they verify that they are doing
Okay,
those
if it-
recycling requirements. It's a state requirement.
Okay, if it's required beyond the township, I'll accept that.
They require reports to us that verifying that the recycling facilities they're using are performing those kind of separation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coonan, this isn't about you accepting it. This is just, if you have other questions or things you missed in the ordinance.
No,
we're
I have,
happy to hear.
I only have a few, just a few things. It looks like a lot because I quoted the text here so that I could refer to it if I need to. Thank you.
Do you want to read?
Terms, the language in the ordinance is becoming, and I noticed this in the right to know policy, we're becoming more and more legal in our language than in the ordinances that these things are replacing. For example, in this particular one, it says paramediori. Did I pronounce that correctly, Mr. McKenna? I mean, do most people know what that means? Are they going to take the time to look it up, or is it just going to be something that puts people off and make them no longer want to read this stuff so that they can keep safe and proper?
I don't know what people will do or what they won't do, Mr. Coonan, but that comes directly from Statutory Interpretation Act.
Okay.
So that actually is Pennsylvania law.
It does say that,
Correct.
use that language?
Yes, it does.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You're telling me a lot of things I didn't know, and I appreciate that. So if I sound annoying, it's from ignorance.
Mr. Coonan, if you want to read it, why don't you let someone else comment and then come back? Would that be better?
I'm almost done. Thank you. I appreciate
know,
your,
we're-
I
go ahead.
appreciate your indulgence. Oh, God. Too much stuff. The thing asks for, requires the residents to go to the collection company to find out what their rules are. The collection company, why don't you tell the collection company to go to the resident, which seems appropriate,
Where is
instead
this-
of putting
where is
all this
line?
stuff on the
I don't-
resident?
What part are you referring to? What are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
What line are you referring to?
Okay. 16823, see, good thing I have all this extra stuff. Single-family residential establishments, and this is the same as the current chapter 168, same section. The owner or occupant must obtain information from their authorized collector on how to recycle material. Why isn't the collector required to just simply tell them? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Coonan, it says that the residents just have to know how to separate their material.
I'm sorry, say it again.
All it says is the residents have to know how to separate the recyclable material from the trash for collection. It's pretty I mean, I don't know, I don't understand what your issue is. The owner or occupant of a single-family residence established must obtain information from the authorized collector on how recycled materials should be prepared for collection. Like, everybody has a blue can and they put the stuff in the blue
You
can.
know, I have to apologize. I am really very sorry. I don't mean to, I really don't like feeling like a dumbbell. I was distracted a moment ago. I was trying to get the meeting on the Zoom so I could hear it through my earphones. I can't understand what you're saying.
Okay,
The acoustics are terrible.
I'm reading your text, the text. It just says the single-family residents have to know how to recycle.
Well, they do, but they should. But if nobody tells them, how are they going to find out?
Mr. Kuhn,
I mean, do they have to take the responsibility for everything?
But they do have to take the responsibility for choosing a hauler at this time. And so I think the idea is that they need to find out the rules from that hauler, because we are a township that currently allows multiple haulers.
I know that,
Wait,
but the hauler
Mr.
really
Kuhn, wait.
should tell them how to do it. Just like they tell us we have to use their particular buckets.
yes, they
should
tell us, I have
But you'll
a
get
trash
that
guy.
information from the hauler.
They
I
send
think
you a
that's the-
document that's got directions on what to put in what cans and when they're going to deliver. Like, everyone has this. We all have blue cans. We all say what goes in the blue can on a piece of paper.
Okay.
That section was removed from the ordinance, so it's not in the,
Mr. McKenna, please
Draft.
use your microphone, I'd appreciate
it
it.
is, it's on. I'm using it. That section was removed. That was actually a comment from DEP. They wanted that language out. It's not in the current draft. No,
Okay,
it's been
but
removed.
just
I'm trying to figure out
because
what
it
section.
says something in one place doesn't mean we have to cooperate and say the same thing. We can make it a little better. Just like our township stormwater ordinances are stronger than anybody else's, why can't we make everything else stronger than everybody else's? Why do we have to copy from somebody else?
I'm not copying it. That's what DEP told us to do.
That's what EEP wants?
That's what DEP
DEP,
told
I'm sorry,
the
Mary.
township,
Okay.
was to remove that, and that's what we
Okay.
did.
What am I going to say? I can't argue with what they want us to do. Trash not left out. We're going to be required to adhere to a schedule for putting trash out. Sometimes I get a message, we use Blazinski, we get a message saying, they missed the day. What do we do with the trash? Can we leave it there?
So this, I think
Does it have to be-
I think Mr. Martin addressed this issue.
I'm sorry?
I think Mr. Martin addressed this issue already. That we have to be reasonable in how we enforce the ordinances. So if people leaving their trash out because Blazinski didn't pick up, we want the trash taken away, so no, you should leave it there till they come the next day. I
Okay,
mean, I get those text messages too. We all have this problem, right?
I know. I understand, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I just kind of wondered about that, because I don't, and the weather is bad or something, you don't want to keep running in and out, pulling trash cans
I
back
think
and
Mr.
forth.
Martin addressed this. It needs to be, we're going to be reasonable in how we enforce this. We have been. These are not changes.
Okay,
We've already operated under this for years.
fine, thank you. No, I'm really, I know, I probably sound horribly argumentative this evening, it's my intention, but it's just a matter of finding out and understanding. And the last point on my list is one item that was not carried over from the current 168, and that is item 16828 on the old ordinance, household hazardous waste, electronic waste, and lead acid batteries. There's nothing in the new ordinance about handling those wastes, and I really wondered about that. That sounds really nasty. Those things are really nasty, and they should be handled appropriately and should be part of the ordinance.
I know that change actually came directly from DEP. She struck out that section in its entirety. As I sit here, I can't tell you exactly why she did. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't understand why we have to do something, because DEP,
Well-
there are a lot of things they tell us that we have to do, that we should do. But just because they don't tell us to do something doesn't mean we can't.
Well, they oversee the program.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
They oversee the program
Fine.
from a state
And they
level.
can say, look what we're doing beyond what you want us to do. That's fantastic. That's
Oh,
good
no,
for you.
Mr. Kuhn,
It
yeah, I
doesn't-
normally would agree with you. If we can, we do try to, I don't want to use the word push the
No.
envelope. However, when the DEP, the state agency, is telling us to strike the entire section, we have to strike the entire, we're below.
You didn't
environmental
argue with
protection.
them? and say that it's a
Oh,
good measure?
We spent months on this ordinance, believe me. And it's in, there are some things we don't necessarily agree 100%, but it complies with what the state regulations are and what they want to see in the ordinance. Now, I think the reason behind that, I think has to do with a lot of that they want you to take to your county recycling centers. They don't want that going in a regular recycling mix, so that may be the reason why. I'm only speculating, and it's something, if you're interested, I'm sure DEP could give you more information, but that was my understanding of kind of why they took that language out. They didn't want an individual recycling that in their regular recycling. There's
Well-
specific county locations and special events where they collect that kind of material.
Well, I just don't understand. If the DEP tells you that you need to take something out, but it should be in, and you're willing to argue with them, why you just don't, what are they threatening? Is there a
Mr. Coonan,
violation of the township or something?
We're doing this so we qualify for grants.
So what?
We're doing this so we qualify for grants, recycling grants from the state. I mean, we're doing this to get money from the state. That's what this is about. We're trying to comply with what they
No.
want us to do.
It just.
Again, we're a township. Like, we're the, the lowest part of the government. So if,
Doesn't matter.
it does,
No, it
Okay.
doesn't.
Anyway,
You know,
thank
the
you for your
serfs
comments.
didn't get their rights until they stood up against the marquee.
okay, well, this
Okay?
might not be
Come on.
this might not be the battle to fight, okay?
Okay, I don't, as I said, I didn't come with the intention of arguing. I came with the intention of
Did.
learning,
Okay.
finding out, and understanding why this was done. But
explain
when
to
I
you.
hear something like this, that they told us to do it, oh, I don't care, so what? Do it anyway if you feel it's a good idea. If they're not going to give you a penalty,
They are going to give us a penalty. They're going to.
They are?
We're not going to get our grant funding. I mean, that's what this is about, is getting money from the state.
That's
So,
nasty.
Anyway, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it.
that's really nasty. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your patience with me. I understand it a whole lot better, and I really do very much appreciate your time and hearing what you have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments from the public? Any other board comments? We done?
I will just add,
This is a roll call vote. Thank you, Mr. Coonan. This is a roll call vote. Supervisor Holt.
Aye.
Supervisor Gussie.
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki.
Aye.
Supervisor Bhaskar.
Aye.
Supervisor Johnston Pugh.
Yes.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's adjourn the public hearing and a call to order of the public meeting. Thank you very much. Announcements. There are open positions on the Planning Commission, Library Board of Trustees, Zoning Hearing Board, and it's an alternate position on the Zoning Hearing Board, and Historical Commission. If you wish to volunteer, please send a letter of interest and a brief resume to Tredyffrin@tredyffrin.org. Approval of the minutes. Do we hear a motion to approve the minutes of October? You're a second?
Second.
Any comments on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes carries. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss legal matters. Supervisor liaison reports. Supervisor Holt.
No reports this evening.
Supervisor Gussie.
No reports this evening.
Supervisor Wysocki.
I do have a report. The Planning Commission. The Planning Commission met on October 17th and granted unanimous preliminary approval for the Tredyffrin Easttown School District's conversion of an office building at 1200 Sweetsford Road to a new elementary school with accessory improvements. I'd also like to, I have a reappointment to the Planning Commission. I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Catherine Vaccaro to the Planning Commission. Kate has done a good job in her first term, and she wants to re-up for a second term on the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yep. Any comments?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Supervisor Bhaskar.
So I have a couple of reports. So the first one is highlights from the Environmental Advisory Council, which met on Tuesday, September 24th. So much of the discussion was about preparation for the EAC table at Community Day, and the table had a lot of visitors, and I think the kids of all ages had fun. There was also a discussion about park stewardship and tree planting maintenance and supplemental watering because we had a dry August and September. There was a discussion of a plan to install a rain gauge in one of the parking lots at Conestoga High School. And Some of you may have noticed that the recycling bins of plastic that were out in the lobby are no longer there. So there's a shortage of volunteers, but also there was all kinds of stuff that was not recyclable that is being put in there. So EAC members Tracy Viola and Amber Levy have produced a series of videos that will go on the website talking about what's recyclable and what's not. And the next meeting of the EAC is tomorrow, Tuesday, October 22nd, in the community room over there. Now, moving on to the Library Board of Trustees that met on Thursday, September 26th, and some of the highlights are following the decision by the supervisors to continue solicitation for Stratford Library expansion proposals. So 2 more architectural firms, including the original library building architect firm, came to inspect the building. Door counts continue to increase, although they are still significantly below pre-pandemic levels. And most of the increase for August was actually at the Paoli Library. The Stratford Library door counts have been steady. And print circulation is about 1/6 below pre-pandemic levels and is more or less stabilized. But e-material circulation continues to keep growing significantly. And total circulation, including e-materials and printed materials, as well as we have a library of things, is about what it was pre-pandemic. And programs and program attendance both continue to increase. So the makerspace is proving very popular, and in 2025 we hope to actually increase the staffing for the makerspace in the Stratford Library. So the next meeting of the Library Board of Trustees is this week, Thursday, October 24th, at the Stratford Library. And then moving on to a fun event, we do have if you've ever wanted to play mini golf inside a library, our annual fundraiser for the library this year is actually mini golf in the Stratford Library. There's a full 18 holes of mini golf, and it's on Saturday, November 2nd. You can play 2 holes of mini golf in the Paoli Library. So this is a fun event. So, kids of all ages, please come and play mini golf. Thank you, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Supervisor Bhaskar. Supervisor Johnston-Pugh.
I have no reports.
Thank you. I need a motion to appoint a fire administrator for Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships. Mr. Martin.
Happy to jump in. I think
Yeah,
we had
sure.
pick a post first.
Well, he's here.
Oh,
Let's
great.
just do it, yeah.
Super. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and public. It's my honor tonight to request the appointment of Joe O'Leary as fire administrator for Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships. For those who don't know, over the past few years, the townships have been working diligently and cooperatively with the fire companies to work on sustainable funding, how to address the needs going forward in a long-term process for the community. And part of that process was to be, as discussed with the townships, is to bring someone in to help coordinate that effort, to be a focal point and a leader for that effort between the townships, the fire companies, and the community. We're excited. We think we have a great candidate, and actually he's being appointed here and at Easttown tonight, the same night. So we're lucky and have him here tonight in the audience, and I'm happy to answer any question you have, but we're very excited to have him start. We're looking to start on October 28th here officially, and hopefully you will appoint him tonight. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Well, I'm going to go first with comments. So I'm super excited to have you here. I mean, I think this has been a long process to get to here for the public. And I think it was a very diligent and thorough recruiting process, and we're super excited. I mean, it wasn't close. We were just super excited to have you as our candidate and our guy, and very excited to appoint you here tonight. I think it looks pretty good for the votes, by the way. But yeah, we're very excited to have you join the township and think this is going to be a huge increase in huge benefit to the residents in terms of the performance we have from the fire companies and just really joining them together better. So excited to have you here. Any other comments? Anybody?
I have a quick comment. Having spent many years on fire emergency services committees and seeing things move forward, and like David, I am excited to see you come on board here. I want to thank the fire companies for their cooperation with this endeavor, and I look forward to you and the fire companies and the board working together to assure continued fine emergency services for Tredyffrin's residents. Welcome aboard.
Any other comments? Any public comments?
I know Mr. Leary would just like to say a couple words, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. I won't take up too much of your time. Good evening, members of Board of Supervisors, municipal leaders, members of the Berwyn, Paoli, and Radnor Fire Companies, Tredyffrin Township residents, my family and friends. I'd like to start by thanking the members of the Board of Supervisors and the municipal leaders for your confidence and support in choosing me for the role of fire administrator. At a very young age, my mother and father taught me the value of hard work, dedication, service, and being a part of something bigger than myself. At the age of 15, I became interested in the fire service and joined the local fire company in Upper Darby Township. As I became more involved, I took an active interest in EMS as well and joined the Manoa Fire Company in Hereford Township, where I've spent the past 22 years of my fire and EMS career in a multitude of leadership roles, including lieutenant, captain, and assistant chief. Following the completion of my undergraduate nursing degree, I worked in a variety of roles, most notably spending the past 14 years of my career as a flight nurse at the University of Pennsylvania. Simultaneously, I worked as a paramedic with the Crozier Keystone Health System, where I held various titles, including deputy chief, chief, and executive director. Throughout the years, the cost of personnel, equipment, and apparatus has increased dramatically, partnered with a steady decrease in volunteers. The changes forced many departments to seek assistance of career fire and EMS staff to ensure that residents receive the help they need in a timely manner when it's needed. I've always had an affinity for developing and delivering an optimal fire and EMS service, spending the last several years of my life assisting various municipalities with recommendations for ensuring that the most appropriate units respond to their emergency with the appropriate number and type of personnel every time a request for service is made. In my new role as fire administrator, I will have the opportunity to bring that experience to Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships, working in collaboration with the municipal officials along with the members of Berwyn, Paoli, and Radnor Fire Companies. I'm extremely excited to be a part of this community and this team, and I look forward to what the future holds for the community. As I begin this journey, I want to take a moment to thank the members of Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships who took part in the interview process and selected me for this role. I would also like to thank the members of the fire companies for their support as we work together to polish an already strong and vibrant fire and EMS service within the township. I'd like to thank all my friends and colleagues who have taken the time to come out of their busy schedule to be a part of this night. I'm truly grateful and humbled by you all. I'd like to thank my parents who have always believed in me and supported me throughout my life. I love you guys, and it means the world to have you here. Last and certainly not least, I want to thank my wife, Suzanne. She always believed in me. She endured every meeting, every phone call, and every meal I missed while I was pursuing my dream. I'm forever grateful for the support. You're the glue that holds this family together, and I love you. My daughter, Charlotte and Paige, you're my world. I love you too. And Daddy's so happy you could be here. Thank you all for your time and for giving me an opportunity to speak this evening. I look forward to what the future holds in Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships as we continue to deliver exceptional service to the residents and visitors. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, we do have one virtual comment.
Hi there, this is Carol Clark. Sorry I should have raised my hand a little bit earlier, but could you please refresh my memory? Who does this position? And congratulations. I know you've all been working on this for a long, long time, but I need my memory refreshed. Who directly does this position report to? And also, would it be possible to either send out an email or put it on the website, a link of the job description? I just wanted to clearly understand in a little bit more detail that you can't go into right now, all the roles and responsibilities of this new position. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to jump in and handle that. Sure. So thanks, Carol. Appreciate your comment. We will certainly make that available to you in terms of job description. With respect to direct report, as the title kind of infers, it's Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships. So in terms of review and report, it'll be the township manager, myself, and also Don Curley, the township manager of Easttown, as his direct reports.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other board comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, we are super excited. You want to get up, you want to come up? Yeah. Thank you very much. Motion to approve the settlement agreement for the Picket Post Land Use Appeal. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board will recall that this was an agenda item, I want to say 2 or 3 board meetings ago, when a draft agreement was presented for your consideration. At that time, the Painters Lane residents hadn't even seen the agreement, and subsequent to that meeting, of which the board took no action, one of the residents, Mr. Zadrozny, was admitted as a party to the land use appeal. This involves some courts and some lights that Picket Post installed at their location. There were zoning hearings in 2024 about it. The board granted it subject to 17 conditions. Picket Post appealed the board's decision as it related to those conditions. And as the board chair is well aware, we then spent the next probably 2.5 months trying to put together a settlement agreement, which is now before you. Mr. Zadrozny has signed, Picket Post has signed. It is for the board's consideration tonight. I'm not going to go through it in detail. What I'll say is that the bulk of the agreement details things such as the times of the year when the courts can be used, the times of the day and the days of the week when the lighting could be used, the extent of landscaping, security related to the site, fencing related to the site, and how to communicate it when there are issues of non-compliance by Picket Post if that were to occur. Assuming the board takes action tonight, it is my expectation the zoning hearing board has it on their agenda for this Thursday, and that they would take action to approve, and it would resolve the land use appeal.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Public comment?
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Motion.
Yeah, a motion, a second, and then board comment, then public comment. Your motion, we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, all right. Any board comment? Any public comment?
It's on, right? Yeah, okay. Good evening. I'm Liz Blygan. Y'all know me, you've heard me before. Resident of Painters Lane at 5 Painters Lane and president of the Painters Lane Homeowners Association. I'm commenting on this proposed settlement on behalf of all Painters Lane homeowners and residents. We're not fully supportive of this agreement, even though Mr. Zadrozny did sign it. And we believe that, once again, it leaves the residents of Painters Lane having to deal with lights and noise intrusions until at least 10 p.m. every night, including school nights. It would seem that we will never be granted the ability to enjoy our living rooms, bedrooms, and decks fully, given how PPSC has won concessions and forgiveness of their violations of previous zoning variances. I asked you all to imagine yourselves sitting out on your decks on a beautiful day like today, sipping some iced tea or maybe some wine, only to have your serenity intruded upon by shouts of profanities at any given time. My husband, who is here, has twice walked behind the club on the path that leads up to where there used to be a little exercise park on the boulevard, and heard profanities shouted both times. One of those times was during the day while children of Chesterbrook Academy were outside playing in the playground. We're talking the S-bomb and the F-bomb, all right, while children are outside playing. Imagine yourself on your deck, trying to relax and having that happen. This is what we have to deal with all the time. And this is what we deal with all the time because they tore down the trees so that they could build their fourth court in complete violation of the zoning variance they had received. So there's that. Imagine yourself sitting in your living room on an evening when at dusk and your lights are low, you're reading a book by a single lamp, watching TV, or even dozing off on your sofa and having the blazing lights intruding in your living room. I know, just close your blinds, I know. We are not convinced at all that PPSC will take any action to cause their members to behave with any decorum, since they have clearly not done so despite our repeated mentioning of the shouted profanities. They continue. And how can we believe that they ever spoke to their members about public urination in full view of our residents, given that it has happened again? There are toilet facilities. They have toilet facilities. We are the ones they expect to do something about it, rather than them admonishing their members. We also have zero confidence that they will plant the trees in the coming spring. And we know for a fact, because I have a proposal from a tree service here in my hand, that it is possible to plant the trees as late as November 7th, despite their claim that the ground is too dry and hard. This was their most recent delay in getting this agreement signed. Oh, well, no, we can't do that. Because PPSC has repeatedly come to the zoning board and this body asking for permission to continue to violate the variances they've been granted time after time, without full compliance with any of the variances granted most recently, we have no confidence that they will remove the fence that inhibits the use of public walking paths immediately. As I understand it, the agreement says they're going to take down the fence as soon as this thing's signed. I have no confidence, we have no confidence that they will actually do that. We don't even have any confidence that even if they do remove the fence, they won't find another way to inconvenience not just Painters Lane residents, but all Chesterbrook residents whom Painters Lane allows to walk through our grounds to avoid the most dangerous stretch of Bradford Road between the boulevard and the parking lots of PPSC. I don't know if you've ever tried to walk that, but it's very narrow. We have zero confidence that PPSC will ensure that the lights on Court 3 will be turned off while play is permitted until 10 o'clock on 1 and 2, as that still has not happened. Have they done the rewiring necessary to make that possible? What is the status of their agreement to install storm treatment system to account for the additional impervious land they created when they built the fourth court in violation of the variance that they had been granted? Do they have a plan? Has it been approved? Will they be permitted to use the fourth court without meeting that variance requirement? We have such little confidence in PPSC's abiding by the variances they've been granted and the conditions that they have, again, asked for forgiveness for violating everything so many times that they've been given dispensation from having to comply with those variances, because we have seen literally zero effort from them to work with us. Instead, they threaten us with criminal trespass charges. They accuse us of harassment when we reach out to a member of their board who said, please call me, we'll work things out, let's work together, please call me. That's harassment, I guess, when we respond to his invitations to call us. They scold me for informing them of yet more play after hours and public urination, and lawyer up rather than try to be a good neighbor. I ask that you remember these comments next year, when I'm quite certain that we will have to bring their non-compliance to your attention again, or even more likely, they again come to you and ask you or the zoning board to drop the condition that they plant the trees in the spring. We don't think we're going to see any trees planted in the spring, any more than we think we'll see the fence removed. What is our recourse when, not if, because we know, when they decide not to plant the trees in the spring? Please remember these comments, because they will be relevant in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any of the board comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. 2025 preliminary budget presentation, Mr. DeRocco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm actually going to let Mr. Martin kind of kick us off.
Thank you. Just a few housekeeping items before Mr. DeRocco gets into his presentation. So just want to touch on the high-level overview where he'll be going tonight. We're presenting our preliminary 2025 township budget and capital improvement plan. We'll be talking about our people, the people who make this organization, and what we do on a day-to-day basis. Of course, we're getting into the actual numbers of the preliminary budget. We'll talk about next steps in the process. where things may be going beyond 2025, and then open up for a general discussion. So one of the things we do like to talk about, we don't get a chance, our non-uniform employees, you know, people say we are a people organization. We are a people organization. We don't make things, but our people do great things every day. And this is just an opportunity to recognize some of the people that put in many, many years for us. We're lucky to have great talent that stays here and provides us with great work every day for us on behalf of the board and the citizens and the residents and businesses of the township. So this is a list to recognize some of those. As you can see, we go from 10 plus years, over 35 years of commitment to this township. And it goes without saying that they do a tremendous job for us on a day-to-day basis. So Joe's going to get into the budget, and I just want to touch on those issues and talk about his message he's going to go into. Obviously, this budget will have a big commitment for public safety. Then we'll talk a little bit about a tax increase, but it's going to be for general and emergency services fund. And obviously, we'll talk a little about how our general fund growth has been generally stagnant this year, and we'll get into the details. So we're excited to have Joe present that to you tonight, and we look forward to a great conversation during this budget process. With that, Joe will start.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Jumping into the general fund, obviously it's our biggest fund, main fund. The majority of the services that we offer through the township run through the general fund. So looking at the 2025 budget versus the 2024 forecast, we're looking at a budget of $24.61 million versus 21.99 forecasted. You can see again, across the board, it's relatively flat other than real estate taxes, which, we're proposing a tax increase in this budget. We're flat, if not down slightly from where we think we're going to end up in 2024. The one thing I'm going to call out, just because it is different than how we have shown the budget in the past, I was looking at the year end when I present the audit to and prepare the financial statements versus the budget. We haven't necessarily in our budgets taken into account for the fact that our general fund for as long as I've been here has actually been funding our capital projects and purchases, the majority of the time. And so what you'll see different is I've actually, in this budget, I've broken out our capital fund. It's in its own tab, but I've also accounted for the reserves that we're planning to use within the general fund to fund those capital purchases and projects. So the big difference in 2025 is really, we're anticipating using $2.12 million out of reserves for capital projects. The reserves for operating, you'll see again, we're not anticipating using anything for operating this year. We're actually anticipating, on an operating basis, a surplus. But when you take into account the capital purchases for 2024, you'll see that we're expecting to use about $150,000 out of reserves there. So net, we would be looking at actually a little bit over, and I'll get into the numbers, we'd be actually looking at about $1 million surplus in 2024. And so again, for 2025, our budget calls to use a little over $800,000 of reserve, which I'll get into a little bit later. Holistically, taking a big picture look here, we're proposing a 6.3% tax increase. What that means is about $39.46 on the average residential household. As Mr. Martin mentioned, and it's in our budget message, we're looking at relatively flat revenue outside of our real estate taxes. For year over year, we're looking at about, again, $200,000 increase, so 1% growth. Most of that growth you'll see is actually in our state aid for pensions. Last year we received about $800,000. This year in 2024, we received over $900,000. So, that's the major revenue growth there. Our interest rate assumptions last year, again, trying to be a little bit conservative on those. So, taking into account, trying to project out how much cash we're using and managing the cash flow. We did increase the budget for interest income. However, we're losing that. We lost the income from our rent from the, Boy Scouts at $14.85. As I mentioned, we're using, in year-over-year budget, we're projecting to use about $127,000 more for operating, or 18% increase in the use of reserves. And again, as I mentioned, $2.12 million for capital purchases, coming from reserves. So looking at the average tax bill, our residential assessment is 2.67 billion, a slight increase over last year. We have a little over 11,400 parcels, residential parcels, average assessment 233,000. New proposed millage rate would be 2.851 mils, for an average tax bill of $665.67. And as I mentioned, so just to give a better picture of how we've been using our reserves, we have not used many over the years. And historically, as I go back and look a little bit there and dig a little bit, anytime we've really used reserves over the last, since 2015, it's been for capital purposes. So, we're reinvesting that money in projects and, things throughout the township. So, majority of the time, it's not for operating. The budget trend, again, it looks like it's a significant increase over last year. And again, $2 million of the increase is year over year from those capital transfers.
So Joe, just to be clear, so in 2024, there's no capital transfers, maybe 150,000.
I'm going to get into that. We have $1.3 million of capital transfers projected for 2024. We're only going to need, because of the operating surplus that we're projecting, again, we've had, in real estate transfer taxes, we actually had a couple of larger parcels sell that we were not expecting. So we're seeing, that's trending up and again, our interest rate assumption, and we've been able to manage the cash flow, so our interest is higher. So when you combine all those things, plus we've had some periodic openings, staffing-wise, combining, we end up with I'm projecting about a little over $1 million surplus for operating. But jumping into our expenses, again, year over year, you'll see again the largest increase that we have is in salaries. It's one of our biggest investments that we're making is hiring 3 additional officers, and so I'll get into the breakdown of that next in our next slide. Benefits, again, second highest increase there. This budget also takes into account the fact that we have shifted away from having staff as our codes inspectors to a third-party services. So that's also part of the wash there and the increase that you're seeing. Again, we're anticipating using a little over $2 million for capital in the 2025 budget. Again, it's a $3 million increase year over year, just over $3 million. $950,000 of that is really the operating increases. Of that $950,000, $500,000 is in salaries. 3 new officers alone are just under $200,000. The rest of our police department, the salary increases for them is about $136,000. Our non-union increases, so essentially non-police and non-public works employees, the total of the raises for them are a little, $65,000. Our AFSCME, so our public works employees, under $20,000 there. The increase in overtime, again, looks significant. $40,000 of the $87,000 increase is actually going to be offset somewhere else in our budget because we instead of hiring a cleaning company to do the township complex, it's actually our public works employees cleaning it, and we're getting better service and better deal, quite frankly. Our benefits increases, just under $300,000 or about 4%. And in our preliminary budget, I accounted for a 5% increase in our health insurance premium. So we just got our renewal after I prepared this budget. It came in a little bit over 5%, but we're able to take advantage of what's called rate stabilization funds at Divot. And so I plan to utilize some of that to bring us, close to what I have in there already, if not at that number. Again, if you're looking at professional services, the $205,000 increase in professional services, again, we're making the switch. We made the switch from, having employees as our code inspectors to now have, using Barry ISIT, which we just approved there. So that's a big one. And then a big savings in this general fund budget is actually via our engineering department. When I was preparing the budget and looking over, we always allocate certain salaries get allocated out. Myself, Bill's, some of the other department heads get allocated amongst the general fund, the sewer fund, stormwater. And so looking in what our employees are doing in the engineering department, right now they're really focused on stormwater. And so I've allocated the majority of the cost to that through our interdepartmental expense allocation. Breaking down our $24.6 million budget, you'll see again, and this slide has not changed much over the years. Slightly skewed, but in administrations because I have to park the capital transfer somewhere. But majority of our budget is, again, it's our largest department, excuse me, is our police department. But this is how our budget breaks down. Excuse me. Moving into our stormwater management fund. Overall, our budget's about the same, $2.56 million. No proposed tax increase. You'll see that the two offsetting factors. One is an increase in the interdepartmental expense allocation, but that was offset by the decrease in debt service budget. Last year at this point, we hadn't issued bonds, so we were, just based off of our conversations with our, outside help, it was just an estimate, and so, we did pretty well in that bond issuance, and so our debt service costs significantly lower than anticipated. Our capital budget, which I'll get into a little bit later, is $11.67 million, and you'll see we have 7 active projects, and none of them are really small. They require a lot of Steve's time and a lot of other staff time, and so we're doing a lot, and we're very proud of that. The average bill, again, I think it might be a $2 increase year over year just because of the slight increase in assessed value throughout the township, but no change really there in that budget. Moving into our emergency services fund. This proposes for this budget proposes for this fund a 28% tax increase or $37.60 per resident. It accounts for $360,000 in increased funding for, Berwyn and Paley fire companies to help address additional staffing and needs that they have. It also includes the full year's worth of salary for our newly appointed fire administrator, 30% of which will be reimbursed back to the township from Easttown. Our capital budget in the...
Joe,
Yeah.
The increase is $37.60. It's per household, not per resident.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. I just want people
Yes.
to know it's per household.
Yeah. Our capital budget is a little over $5 million. Most of that is to complete our project at 23 Bridge Avenue. To date, that project's on budget, on time. Again, our staff is working extremely well with the fire company, and so we're looking forward to getting that project wrapped up next year and get Berwyn back in there. We have $128,000 worth of projects at our Valley Forge Road Station. The two big things going on next year are we have to replace the carpet. I don't think the carpet was ever replaced. And so we're looking at doing that, as well as having somebody come in and help create a budget for improvements to that building. The building was built, I believe in the 50s or early 60s, and it's showing it. I don't think there was really any major improvements made since then, and so, in order to make this a fully functioning building that we can call home for the next, 15, 20 years, we do need some improvements, but we don't want to just throw a number at it. We want to be, methodical about it and have a real good budget for the boards to approve, hopefully in this time next year. We also have in that budget $200,000 for the potential down payment for a Quint, which is another, a fire apparatus, another fire truck. And so we'll be working with Berwyn on that and looking at that. And again, we'll have our fire administrator involved in that as well. This tax bill with the increase goes up to $171.85 per average residential household. So where do our tax dollars go? We're 11%, still the smallest percentage of the overall tax bill. Majority is going to the school district. This is just a look at the general fund millage rate history. Again, the last 2 years we haven't had any millage increase for the general fund. Last year, I'm sorry. And so this year we're projecting to go up to 2.851 mils. Overall, when you look at combining all three of our tax bills, general, fire and EMS, and stormwater, the total millage in 2025 is projected to be 4.244 mils. And then if you really want to break down, where's that go? What is the total bill that I'm going to be looking at in 2025? The average resident is going to be looking to be paying, $990, and broken down again. Most of it is, as we would expect, is going to our police department budget, but we see, we have a significant investment in, fire and EMS and stormwater as well. Overall, when we look at the total across every fund, the general fund makes up almost 70% of the overall budget. Next is, sewer. Our sewer fund is our next largest fund, and then followed, by fire and EMS and stormwater. Switching gears into capital. The next 5 years, we plan to invest, almost $15.5 million into stormwater and stormwater-related projects. For 2025, one of the big ones there is we have almost $5.5 million for the PEMA and FEMA home acquisition program. The majority of that, 90% of that, is funded by the federal government. So that's in there. The other projects that we have a project at Stratford Park, Krabby Creek, we have projects going on right now. Bear Road, we have projects going on. Woodcrest, Willis, Upper Weedley, Gregory Lane, and then West Valley and Jeffrey as well. So, we're really out there. We're pushing hard to get a lot of these projects done. And that's just stormwater. Sanitary sewer, again, this has been
Joe, just for a second. So on the that's $15 million in stormwater projects. Can you give some feel, besides the home acquisition, which 90% of that money is federal money, some view of we're not spending $15 million of residents' money on these projects.
Yeah, my next slide will address that. Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was going to say Steve has been remarkably successful in getting grants.
Yeah. The other, another large investment that we're making over the next 5 years, and we've been doing this, is reinvesting in our pump stations and our force mains. The program that Darren's created, essentially now when we go to upgrade our pump stations, we're also now going to upgrade the corresponding force main. So that way, the force mains in the ground right now, other than Station Avenue, which we're just about finished, that project, are the original force mains. And so, it's time to replace those. And our project this year was very good. We had a good contractor was able to get in and out on Conestoga Road to keep the disturbance to a minimum. But over the next 5 years, we're going to see hopefully the completion of this program that Darren's kind of created. Again, non-stormwater infrastructure. Again, that's another large investment that we're making. That is our paving program, which is over $1 million a year. That's about $1 million project that we're starting up on Valley Forge Road for pedestrian improvements. that is about, over the next 5 years, $2.5 million in reinvestment in bridges and culverts throughout the township. And later in the agenda tonight, we actually have an action item on one of the bridges, so we'll see a small tweak in our final budget for that. But again, it's reinvesting, our reserves, a lot you'll see in our next slide, back into the township. How do we pay for all this? You'll see that, together with our consultants, we've been wildly successful in obtaining grant funding. And, the total plan, I think, is about $54 million over the next 5 years. 17.6 of that is grant funding. So that's, all the grants that we've gotten. That's ARPA, that's all of our grants. And, we're really proud of this slide because, again, it shows that we're trying to leverage every penny that we collect from residents into grant funding. Our sewer fund will pay for all of their improvements. The plan, does right now call for the use of $8.8 million of general fund reserves. Our hope and our priority is to get that number down and as low as possible. And, we'll continue to push that and work through that as best as we can. So where do we go from here? Next step, so tonight we're here to discuss I presented the budget. We're here to discuss it, answer any questions the board or the public might have. At our November 18th meeting, we'll have a public hearing on the preliminary budget as required by our charter. At that point, we would ask for, to discuss any changes that we're looking to make to this preliminary budget for, working towards our final budget. At our December 2nd meeting, we'll look to discuss the changes that have been made to the preliminary budget and then authorize the public hearing on the millage rates and the budget as well, both required by our charter. And then at the December 16th meeting, hopefully we'll be adopting the budget and the millage rates. So, this budget's ambitious, but we have the required funding that we need, and we're looking forward to another successful year.
On this schedule, you can have a budget workshop like we have in the past?
Yes, I'll get that. I'll work with the finance committee, and then we'll get that up and on the website and scheduled. That is all I have for tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
DeRocco, you were talking about the fire truck. How many do we have right now?
So off the top of my head, I don't know the exact number that we have across the two.
So this would be the one that you're talking
So
about?
between Berwyn and Paoli, I'm seeing 7.
Okay.
So this would right now, so the Quint would be a new piece of apparatus that we would be adding to the fleet.
So it wouldn't be replacing anything? This would be
Correct.
an add-on?
As of right now, that is the plan. One of the tasks that we're... okay. It would replace the engine, sorry. We're going to have we're going to have Joe start and work with Berwyn and Paoli to look at the total apparatus and help the boards, both our board and East Town's board, decide what that next purchase is going to be.
I got one other question. When you're talking about, you just got the new paperwork for the health, I'm presuming it's health insurance.
Yep.
So is that through a broker that we do it, or that, depending on what the price is, you can go back and discuss that, or how is that working?
So we go through Divot, it's called. It's a health trust. It's essentially municipalities throughout the Delaware Valley all come together under one trust, and then they market the insurance that way. So we're not dealing one-on-one with a broker.
Is it possible we'd get a better rate if we dealt one-on-one with a broker?
So our history is no. Maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, we had actually, we're in Divot. My predecessor pulled us out to go to Blue Cross because of those, the promises that made up front are always, I'll be able to get you a better rate. On the back end, we ended up going back into Divot because we were hit with a 35% renewal. And so it just obviously wasn't affordable. It was uncapped. And so, you know, our history says on our own, probably not.
Other questions from the board?
There's just some questions, just a couple comments as I see it's discussed preliminary budget time, and I may not be able to make it to the next meeting, but I just want to say I think this is a really solid budget and one that staff and supervisors spend a lot of time on it. And I do appreciate, Joe, the separation in reserves and capital, or at least the concept a little more. I think that's something that's been a long time coming and something that we've really needed to see. The investment in public safety, I think, and the focus thereon is excellent. I'm really happy to see that continue to improve those services for our residents. I also like to see the focus on the library's future with the idea of a forward capital improvement plan and what we're going to do for that wonderful, miserable building that we all have come to love and loathe. But has some wonderful employees and a lot of dedicated residents, and so I'm happy to see that as well. I just personally, I would love to see more of a capital expenditure on Friendship Park. We had a very nice presentation at the last board meeting. The plan looks reasonably good. I think we should discuss if it's possible to take some of our significant reserves. I think we're at about 75% of the operating budget we have in our accounts. Is that
Yep.
fair to say? It'd be great if we could see some just do that whole project together. But that's a like to have. You know, I recognize completely that our staff is at full capacity on terms of capital projects and stormwater projects and what they are doing every day. And that's something we've discussed internally. Staffing is always a big issue, and we recognize that, and we see that, and you guys and gals are operating it. Just really proud of what's going on in Tredyffrin Township. But again, if there is need for more, just let us know, because our residents have lots of demands too. So I do want to say thank you, and good job on this preliminary budget.
Any resident comments? Sure.
I'm Margaret Van Arsen, 460 Prussian Lane. I have a very quick comment about I think this is a mess when we were getting our real estate taxes and we were referred to paying it to a collection agency or something that was, it had a strange name to it.
The school district just switched to Keystone Collections Agency.
Oh, was it the school?
Yeah,
It wasn't yours?
Yeah, we collect the taxes here. The school
Okay.
district uses
Oh, that was separate,
outside
okay,
service.
I was going to comment on the title of the, anyway, all right. The other question is, what happened, who's covering the cost of the repair of the covered bridge?
Not the township.
No, PennDOT.
Not the,
No,
PennDOT.
I'm sorry,
Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. It's a state road, yep.
it's a state road, okay. And there was a reference to something in there, I'm not financially sophisticated, to a quint?
Yeah,
What
Quint
is a Quint?
is the name of a piece of a fire truck.
Oh, it's a quint, fire truck, okay, thank you.
Ray Clark from Overlook Place. A lot going on here, Joe. Thank you very much for a good kind of high-level overview. And I look forward to like November the 6th and the 18th. I see a big increase in emergency services tax. And I see a lot of projects going to the Berwyn side of things. And I'm a little worried about those of us in the West contributing a lot to all of this, but getting kind of shortchanged in the investment in Paoli. And I think it would be really helpful as we go into this, to have like an explanation of how the whole funding for both the fire companies is working, and also really why we have the increase, where the money is going. So
Yeah, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, in the budget open house. But the funding allows for, I believe, the addition of 2 additional staff members at Paoli. It's our and Easttown share of that. You know, they also get funded through Willistown, so that'll be a portion. But our funding allows for them to hire, I believe, 2 additional staff members.
So having like a little explanation of that would be really nice.
Yeah, Ray, we can explain to you at the budget workshop or some other time, but there's a formula of cost sharing between Berwyn and Paoli that accounts for the volume of calls that they're running in both both townships, Tredyffrin and Easttown. So they've all agreed to this as a pretty fair way to distribute the money between them based on volume and cost. So we
To
can
have
show you
that
how it is.
available to the public and kind of laid out would be nice. Clearly, now we're seeing like the real estate taxes on a pretty aggressive increase trajectory here, and for very good reasons. At some point, I think we'll see the reserves really begin to take a hit. And I'm hoping that the board starts to think about the load that there is on the real estate side of the equation and how it might be good to diversify revenue sources. And clearly, earned income tax, there's money that taxpayers, residents of Tredyffrin are paying that are going to other townships. And I think we need to start thinking really hard about the mix of revenues that we get and kind of how fairly those should be allocated amongst the residents. So I'm hoping that we begin that process. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any other resident comments? Any other board comments? Anything else? Thanks, Joe. This was really well done.
Thank
I
you.
think it was a really thorough, clear, everyone understands it. I got a couple of questions on the way some things were displayed, but otherwise it was really good. So
Thank you.
Thanks. Motion to support the Royer Graves School LSA grant application. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In your packets was some information about the Royer Graves School. I had sent some information to you prior to this. They've been working with Representative Schusterman's office to apply for a green project grant. I believe there's a representative or 2 here from the school that can give you some more detail on that. The part of that application will require us to be the applicant. It's a municipality-focused grant, and Representative Schusterman's office asked that we would help coordinate with them. So if they're successful in the application, on our behalf, we're going to have to sign that application. To secure the funds, we'll have to set up a process of expending those funds to the Royers Grave to complete the project. But that'll be down the road, and they'll be happy to, I guess, give us a quick overview of the project for you and the public tonight as well.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
All right. Any board comment or questions? Public comments?
You just want to come up and
Just give us a
high-level overview? That'd be
If you don't
great.
mind, yeah, that'd be great, yeah. I mean, we read it, but it'd be great just to hear it. Yeah, since you're here, it'd be great. Thanks.
My name's Nick Voigt. I'm with the Roy Graves School for Blind, Director of Development and Community Outreach. Thanks for your time today, and thanks to Mr. Martin with meeting with us. I think we met back in September. So the program itself, it's the LSA program. What that is, it's state funded. State put it in place. It taps into a funding from the revenue generated for horse racing and casinos in the area. So, and with this program, it goes focused on basically nonprofits, but for capital projects. So with our school, we're on South Valley Road, 118. The school's been around for over 100 years. So we're trying to make improvements to the campus. Originally, we approached Representative Schusterman about possibly what we wanted to do is convert from oil to natural gas. And then when she presented it to Harrisburg, and a connection up there said, hey, would they be interested in solar as well? Because there's a program for this. And we said, yeah, absolutely, if there's a grant for it again. So again, it's so key to, again, we mentioned tonight about different grants and how it's important to kind of tie into and make sure we're in each lane the right way. And then they approached the township and said, hey, I think this might be a good fit for the LSA. And really what it comes down to, in what we wrote up, it's a pretty simple application. You have to apply on their site. The document that we shared pretty much is everything in a summary of what we would like to submit. And we have it broken down to financially what it would be. We're going to ask for $600,000. And what that would do would help cover for a new roof to support the solar panels, but also to convert from oil to natural gas on the property as well. She feels pretty confident with the grant that we have and the idea for it, and we're looking forward to working with the township to basically help do our part for our carbon footprint and try to make it better for the area.
Fantastic. No, we're excited to help you here.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good thing. Once it comes together, we get it, it's going to be, I think, a good thing for everybody involved with it. So we're looking forward to working, and again, we'll
Touch
talk.
base later this week, if they assume they approve it tonight, and then we'll start working on the submission of the application.
Perfect, great, thanks. Any questions for us?
Any questions, guys? No, thanks. No, thank you. This is really, we're excited.
Great, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, thank you.
Any other public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Motion to approve the conditional use application of the Tredyffrin Easttown School District for 1200 West Sweetford Road. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board will recall that you held the hearing on this application in September. The board has 45 days in which to render its decision on an application. A draft decision was provided for the board's consideration. It is for your consideration of approval tonight. As it is drafted, it proposes only 5 conditions. The first being that the applicant should adjust the signal timing of the traffic signal located at the Sweetford Road entrance if it's determined necessary by a traffic study during the land development phase. The applicant should comply with the provisions of the Township's Stormwater Management Ordinance. They should comply with the provisions of the Township's Landscape Ordinance, and that the use and the development of the property shall comply with the representations and commitments made during the testimony and exhibits, and it shall comply in all other respects with the ordinances, regulations, and applicable provisions of statutes and ordinances of Tredyffrin Township. Those are the fairly standard conditions for conditional use approval. I will note, too, that at the Planning Commission's meeting last week, they were granted preliminary land development approval subject to the condition of receiving conditional use approval.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve contract supplement to Jacobs for the Bear Road Stormwater Improvement Project. Mr. Burgo.
Chairman Miller and members of the board, this supplement is for Jacobs. They are a design consultant working with us on the Bear Road project. This covers supplemental engineering services. As the board might recall, we did some public meetings with the residents, and as the result of that, back this spring, we actually modified the design. We actually took the stormwater systems and flipped them from the north side of the road to the south side. So that involved some redesign work as well as coordination with PICO. We had a number of additional meetings in coordination with the utility companies as well with that relocation. So those services have been, ongoing with the team. And we also included some additional construction coordination for the inspections for that project. Just as a quick update, the capital budget, we did have $1.4 million in the capital budget for this year for this project. As you recall, we have 2 grants. We have a DEP grant of $340,000. We have a Chester County grant of $235,000, so a large chunk of that money is coming from those grants, and Tredyffrin Township had basically a large amount of funding as well, but we did approve in total all the dollars that we have for the design services, including the supplement, and what was approved for the construction would be less than what we have in the budget for this year. So I just wanted to say that. So we're asking the approval of this additional money, $78,748 by the board.
Thanks, Mr. Burgo. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve change order number 1 for the solid wall for the Warner Spur Bridge Repair Project. Mr. Burgo.
Chairman Miller and members of the board, as provided in the
From Solid
memo.
Wall, sorry about that.
What's that?
From Solid Wall, I just mispronounced it, yeah.
They're trying to make this bridge have more of a solid wall when we're all finished. The proposed change order number 1 is for this, for solid wall for the contractor approved for the Warner Spur Bridge project. As part of their project, they're out there working already. We already approved the contractor. When they dewatered the creek and they started the repair, they actually found more substantial damages that resulted from Tropical Storm Ida. We actually had about 5 feet of erosion damage that was underneath the length of the structure from upstream to downstream, and some of that water from those larger storms, particularly Ida, got behind some of the abutment wall and started to bulge out some of those structures. So this additional supplement, we did get an initial supplement, we did work with the contractor, and we substantially reduced those costs. Instead of rebuilding the structure totally, taking it apart and rebuilding it, we have some grouting that's included to kind of solidify and basically to get that wall back to an integral functioning that it would be, but be solid, but not completely remove it and replace it. So the costs came down. They still are expensive, but they came down, including having to do a lot of work under the length of the structure as well. So we are recommending that the board approve these so the contractor can continue his work and finish this work. It's something that we're looking for this project to be wrapped up this year. A couple keynotes too as well. On this one, we do have $320,000 that was approved by FEMA last year, and they provided to the township. We have submitted the remainder of our current contract to FEMA, and we continue to coordinate with them to try to get additional reimbursements from FEMA for this project as well. And at the very end, they did tell us if there are additional overages, we can submit them. There's no guarantees, but we can submit them for consideration for reimbursement in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Burgo. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Chairman Miller, members of the board, Lancaster County Timber Frames, they are the same contractor that you would recently had done repair work on the Knox Covered Bridge. They were working for PennDOT to do emergency repairs of that structure. They do a lot of wood covered bridges and basically open bridges similar to what we have here for Contention Lane. A couple key points. The Contention Lane Bridge was rehabbed back in 2010 and 11. It was more of a major rehab. Since then, it is exposed to wind, sun, rain, salt from winter operations, and vehicle traffic. It has shown its wear and tear on the top bridge deck boards. Some of them are loose and moving up and down. Some of the bolts are broken, some are splintered. It's just showing the wear and tear of those years of all that exposure to the elements. So this is strictly just a repair of those bridge deck boards. We do have to remove the guide rail and some of the bumpers to put them back on, so there's a little bit of labor intensive to it, but we are asking the board for these emergency repairs to get that so we can ensure its safety moving forward for vehicle traffic. The amount of the contract of the proposal is $122,850. And there is a little bit of a lead time for these materials. They'd have to order them. It would be about 2 months for getting the wood as well. And we would close down the bridge temporarily while we make the repairs.
Thank you, Mr. Burgo. Do you hear a motion?
Motion.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
All right, thanks. Any board comments or questions?
Yes, Supervisor Miller. So basically, I would, if I look at that bridge, it's a one-way bridge, and there's not a lot of traffic going over it. I mean, it's not like Howellville or one of our other busy roads. So there's a limited amount of traffic. It's a one-way bridge, and the residents are used to going by other routes anyway, because when they to get back into the neighborhood, you can't use the bridge. You have to go around either on Kissat or one of the other roads. So the question I have is it, and the bridge has no historical significance as far as I know. So the question I would have is it worth fixing the bridge or just closing the bridge right now to traffic, and then at some point in the future, when we have the funding, putting in a proper two-lane bridge which will allow traffic to go both ways. But what's the point of spending $120,000 right now on something that has limited value?
Thank you, Supervisor Bhaskar. I mean, the Finance Committee talked about this, and what we decided, or what we are recommending, I guess I'll speak for myself, I'll let the rest of the committee members speak for themselves, but my thought was that it's $120,000. It is a bridge that is used frequently. I mean, I drive over that bridge regularly, so it's not like it doesn't get used. Not that we do it just for me, but I mean, I'm just using myself as an example. And in the meantime, we would then look for funding, grant funding to replace the bridge with a two-lane bridge, but that's going to take years and millions of dollars. So this is, a couple-year fix for a bridge that is used more frequently. I mean, you don't live near this neighborhood, but there's people use this bridge. People are driving on it.
Actually, I do know the neighborhood because years ago when I first moved here, there was an old barn out there that I wanted to buy and rehab, and then my wife talked me out of it. But I do know the neighborhood, and we have friends there. But again, it is a one-way, so you can only go one way over the bridge. So everyone who lives in that area or uses that area has got alternate routes to get in and out of it. So therefore, I'm questioning the value of spending $120,000 on repairing something which would have limited value.
Steve, let me ask you a question. That bridge originally, or not originally, last time you said it was around, 2010?
The last series of repairs were done in 2010-11. It was in the winter time.
And so basically, we're talking wear and tear on a bridge.
It's wear and tear. It's an exposed wood bridge. So, I mean, as basically it's exposed to, and think about the years that have passed since then. We've had tons of tropical storms, hurricanes, rainfall, sun damage, and salt, and vehicles driving over there as well. So that's what happens with a bridge, a wooden bridge. The remainder, we did some more structural repairs as well back in 2010, the underneath, replaced some of the wood beams. Those are not anticipated to have to be replaced, but just the wood deck that has to be done.
And the company that wants to do it, that's the best bid that we've gotten, is $122,000. The company who's going to do it, they've given us the best price of $122,000. Am I correct? There's nobody that.
That's the proposal for just replacing just like what would be needed to be replaced, the deck boards, yes.
And that could probably hold, if the last time we did it was in 2010, we could probably make it another, barring any bad storms, another 10 years, which in turn would give us time to try to get the money to replace the bridge completely and do as what Bhaskar is saying, a two-lane bridge, which will probably cost a couple $1 million.
Doing the repairs that's what we'd be looking to do, is basically restore the user safety of the bridge and make it basically safe and sound for use for the next number of years until we could actually obtain grant money and move ahead with another project if the board so chooses to direct us to do that.
And if we close that bridge, how impact would it be?
I mean, it's hard to say exactly. There are residents that use that. There are some through traffic that uses that to go down to Swedesford. I mean, temporarily, we did it both times. When we do the work, we do it. Folks have to go out to Valley Forge Road, which is, on Old State. It's not the best to make left turns, and even right turns. It's a busy road. It's very difficult to make a left turn out from, Old State Road onto Valley Forge Road to head down to that intersection where the TD Bank is and the stuff there. If you go the other way, you would go through the residential neighborhood out to basically to Casat and have to go down that way. So it diverts you kind of east or west, and you have to go through the residential neighborhood. It would add extra time to your travel, and it makes it much more difficult to go to the east. I think you can't really get out to Valley Forge Road safely.
Thank you.
I think this is a bridge that is used more than you think about. I mean, there are people who live there, that's a regular route. I mean, I drive there regularly.
I grew up in that neighborhood, and I use that bridge constantly. And you're used to it, so yes, you're taking other routes to get home, but it would be, disruptive. It is definitely used.
We'll have a room full of people if we decide to close that bridge for years. Let's put it that way. Deservedly so, by the way. Any other?
Yeah, I have a quick comment. We did consider it in finance, and we sort of went over all of these issues, and we came to the conclusion that, for $120,000, things work out, maybe they'll find one or two other things that have to be added to it. We don't know getting in there when it's a wooden bridge like this. We could have a bridge that's going to be safe and sound for the use of all the residents who do use that bridge. I don't live there, so I don't know on that side of the township, but I do know, and I'll take everybody else's word, that it is used. I mean, I don't think I just would say that. But we do that, and then we can take that time and do it right rather than rushing. We can, rather than going in there and shutting it down now and having that adverse effect and not knowing what we're going to have to do, what grants are available, do it now, rush, because, wow, it's shut down. That was the thought. And we will start to look for grants and other ways to finish this project like we do with all of our other projects where grants are available. So I think it's I think it's the right thing to do here. So after we discussed it, and I understand what you're saying, Bhaskar, too. You don't want to throw good money after bad, but I don't think that's what we're doing here.
Any other board comments? Any public comments?
Could you just tap, could you just hit the microphone? Sorry.
Sorry, for what it's worth. Today, for the first time in a very long time, I went over Contention Lane Bridge, and it rattled a lot. So I think that A, it's used, and B, it could be fixed, so for what that's worth.
My family always called it the rickety old bridge when I was a kid.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion to approve CIPP and manhole rehab for sanitary sewer. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just real quick, what CIPP is, it's a cure-in-place liner. What happens is, and we noticed we have numerous infiltration spots on Old State Road. In order to do the point repairs, it's not worth it. We're better off just to do what's called cure-in-place, where we put a whole new liner in from one end of Old State all the way down to the bottom. It saves us from the excavations. It's actually a money-saving way to repair the sanitary line. So for Old State, to cure-in-place, it's 2,299 feet. We also have a couple protruding laterals we have to fix. The price for that is a co-stars through Able Recon, and it's $241,900. Also, during our inspections, we noticed we have 7 manholes in the Bradford sanitary trunk line that need to be repaired due to large amounts of infiltration and the concrete breaking down. The cost for those manholes, $33,800. And when we did the new sanitary sewer line at the Lancaster Avenue pump station, we noticed there's large amounts of infiltration in that manhole, and to get that one repaired is $10,950. This money was included in the township budget. It has been looked at by Brown and Caldwell, who is the township sanitary sewer engineer, and the contractor is Able Recon. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions?
So I do have a question. So this is, I understand the nature of the work. It's covered by, it would be covered by the sanitary sewer fund, right? Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
And overall, this saves us a little bit of money because we're putting less water through the system. So it actually, we have to do this. It does save us money.
No, I think the cure-in-place thing is a good way to go.
Okay. All right. Any public comment or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the inflow and infiltration study on sanitary sewer system by Dukes. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In the effort, like Chairman Miller was saying, for the infiltration, we want to do a study in the Station Avenue and the Glen Avenue pump station basins. We propose to use Dukes, who did the study for the Lancaster Avenue water basin. This would be under co-stars for a cost of $30,466.80. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions?
Well, just a question, which is, this would be an improvement over what we're doing right now. So right now, what do we do right now, and how does this improve it?
What we do now is we go out and we do video inspections, we do our sonar inspections. With this, what it is, it's actually to try to pinpoint where the infiltration is coming in, because we can't be out there when it's raining. Or we have some people who may pump water into our system that we don't know about. So this is 24-hour monitoring for a 30-day period. Hopefully it'll rain in that time. If not, unfortunately, I'll probably have to come back and ask for some more money to extend the study, so.
Okay, I'll do my rain dance.
All right, thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Public comments or questions?
So there's no rain forecast for weeks, so hopefully we can let the contract when rain is forecast?
We will watch the weather as best we can and go from there, but we have to try to do it either in the fall or we'd have to wait till the spring, so we can't do it in the wintertime.
Okay, definitely worth waiting for a couple of weeks.
Thank you for the weather forecast. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize staff to issue an RFP for the revision of the Historic Overlay District Ordinance. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight, we're seeking authorization to issue the RFP to rewrite the historic overlay ordinance. This is something that we actually obtained grant funding for. I have Robert here, who was the staff member who wrote the RFP and worked on it, as well as Eric Williams from the Historical Commission to answer any questions specifically about the RFP and anything that the board might need.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duraco. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
In a second, I guess? Second, thank you. Any board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? I think we're good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, it was easier for you guys. Thanks. No, thank you guys. Thanks for the hard work.
Glad you stayed the whole meeting.
Yeah, well, thank you. Motion to authorize staff to advertise a public hearing on November 18th, 2024 to consider and possibly adopt the 2025 preliminary budget. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is required by our charter, public hearing for, the preliminary budget, and so just getting it out of it, and so that way we have time to advertise.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Duraco. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize staff to advertise a public hearing on December 2nd, 2024 to consider and possibly adopt ordinance HR 484, amending the Code of Tredyffrin Township, adding a new chapter, Public Arts Commission, Article XXIVA, Historic Resource, I'm not sure my Roman numerals are fast enough, Historic Resource Overlay District to create a new Public Arts Commission for the township. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is something that staff's been working on with the solicitor as well as a couple of our board members. This is the ordinance that creates the Art Commission, 5-member board. We've been working on this for quite some time, so we're excited to have it in front of the board tonight, and we're looking to authorize a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Duraco. Do I hear a motion?
I would like to make a motion with a modification, if I may. And the modification is to have the size of the commission be 7 people, and then with the initial terms adjusted accordingly, rather than just 5 people.
Yes, so process-wise, I think we have to have we have a motion.
I'm making a modified motion, is that?
You got a motion first to get it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so you're making a motion to modify it.
I'm making, okay.
So wait, so make your motion, and then we need a second, and then we can talk what you're trying to do.
Correct. Make the motion second, and then if there's a motion to modify that motion, has to get its own second.
So
I'm making the
I'll
original
second the
motion.
initial motions.
All right, the initial motion, so the motion thank you.
I second that.
So the initial motion is, so the motion with 5 people is on the table. And now, do we have any discussion on that first? Discussion on the original motion?
Okay, so,
No?
so is this time for me to make the modified motion?
Now you can make a modified motion.
So I would like to make a modified motion that we change the size of the proposed Arts Commission from 5 members to 7 members. And the reason is as follows. Essentially, with 5 members, you know, if 3 of them are not there, you lack a quorum. And again, there are people who have some specific roles. And then we also have had some challenges recruiting people to serve on some of our boards. We usually have a vacancy or 2, which we announce at each of the meetings. So if we can get a commission with 7 members, if one of them happens to leave, then they can still, you know, continue to function. Otherwise, we'll be constantly, again, adding that to the list of vacancies that we have in the township. So I'm proposing that we make the initial staffing 7, and then make the staffing 7, and then adjust the initial terms accordingly, so that over the 3-year period, roughly a third of the members are up for renewal every time.
Okay, do we hear a second? No second on the motion. That's fine, no second on the motion.
No, I was asking, because I got lost there. No, I said I got lost there on the original motion for the commission. That's,
There's a motion and a second for the original.
okay, that's,
This is
Unless there's a second to the motion to amend, correct? If there's no second, the motion fails. So then it would just be public comment on the motion or board comment on your original
public comment
motion.
on the first one. Any board comment on the first one?
Very briefly. I just do want to comment on the commission itself. It's a great initiative. As Joe said, it's been a while to get us here. You know, to improve the visual space and improve our everyday lives in Tredyffrin is an important thing. I think everybody warrants a little public art in their lives. It makes us happy, it makes us think, and it'll set us apart from other municipalities and gives all a rich sense of place, even beyond the wonderful spot we have right now. So I can't wait to get this commission underway. And thank you, staff, and thank supervisors for moving forward here.
No, thank you. I would agree. I'm excited to get this going also. I think this is a really good initiative for the township.
I feel the same way. I think art opens up people's eyes, and you get to see things that you may not, and it may inspire, in my mind, it may inspire children to want to do art, because without that, I think we're lost, and that's something that I, again, too, appreciate Joe and everybody working so that we can set ourselves different from all the other townships around us, that we have art, and people may come and look at it, and you never know. We may end up with the next Picasso, you know, on our wall. So, thank you.
Yeah, at a minimum, it'll enrich our lives, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
And any public comment?
You don't have to look disappointed. Especially since I have closed caption on my camera. Since you're talking about content of this new ordinance, I think it's a good idea. I support the idea of an arts commission. I think it's very, very intelligent, very smart, and a movement in the right direction regarding aesthetics in the township. I do agree with Supervisor Basker that perhaps 7 would be better, because as we see, we have 7 people on the Board of Supervisors, and 1 is absent today. Could be because of who knows what. You might not make a quorum on any particular meeting. I think Supervisor Basker, and I repeat on purpose, is right on that regard. The second point I would like to make is that in the definitions, I think you're making a grievous error. Under definitions, you define an artist as a person engaged in an activity or activities related to creating art, practicing the arts, and demonstrating an art, who make their primary living from such artistic endeavor. First of all, the concept of what is art is a really very open question. It's not, I don't even know if it's definable. You know, it's the cliche is beauty is in the eye. You know that cliche, I won't repeat it. So the concept of what is it, what is art, is very broad, very arguable. The next point is who make their primary living through the practice of such endeavors. That doesn't make an artist. It only makes someone who is paid to do what we call art. And I would like to point out the fact that as you walk through any museum of the arts, Philadelphia Museum of Art or whatever, you will notice, hopefully, that there are a lot of technicians hanging on the wall, but not too many artists. We think of an artist as a person who does certain things, but that's not what an artist is. Doing it is simply the technical aspect. Most artists, many artists, are simply technicians. There are very few artists, and we read about them in the art history books. I don't have to give you a list. There's thousands of very true, real artists, but a lot of people who call themselves artists are not. We have people who design the Michelangelo sculpture, like the David, Pietà, and we have people who design garden gnomes. It's quite a difference. Now, if you present a proposal and ask an artist to present a request for proposals, and you ask an artist to present their idea to satisfy your request, I might like to make a proposal. Do I look like, am I an artist? You don't know. As a matter of fact, I have a degree in fine arts from Tyler School of Art of Temple University with a major in printmaking. Okay? I'm an artist. Okay? Now, that's what I learned at the Tyler School of Art in large degree was technique. I learned the technical aspects of making a print, a woodcut or a lithograph or an etching. I can do that. I know how to do it. I can teach other people did, and for 13 years, I made my living in that endeavor as a teacher of the visual arts in Philadelphia Public High School. I'm not doing it now, but it doesn't make me any less of an artist. Being an
Mr.
artist is the
Coonan,
way
may I
a
interrupt
person
for 1
thinks.
second?
I'm sorry?
For one
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
I understand your point.
Okay.
The purpose of this definition is to provide two people on the board and the commission should be artists under this definition, is what we're trying to add. We're trying to get, we're just trying to get some professionalism and some guidance on the commission. Do you have a suggestion for how to define artist? Do you want us to take out the primary living part? What's your suggestion for changing the definition of artist?
You want that right now? I don't think like that. I'm sorry. I can't give you that kind of an answer this quickly. And I'm not kidding. I really do mean it. Okay? I'm a bottom-up thinker. I don't start with a concept. I put ideas together.
Don't need an explanation.
Okay?
I just asked
But
if you had one.
that's the reason why I cannot give you an answer to that question. It's an important question. It is a very important question. And I did not know that you're trying to define the term artist in order to fill a position. Am I not understanding?
That's why it's on there. But anyway, but thank you. This was great input, and we'll think about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Who is handling this particular project? I'd like to have some conversation.
Well, it's Supervisor Holt and Supervisor Johnson Pugh, right?
You are? Oh, great, Carlotta. Good. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so
Thanks.
much, and I appreciate your help.
Thank you, Richard. All right, any other public comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New matters, any board new matters? Board member new matters? Public new matters?
Oh, it was on. Good evening. My name is Sean Jackson, and I'm a member of the Mount Pleasant Community Association, and I'm here in question of Zone Ordinance Section 208-122-1, and it's the ordinance for college housing in our neighborhood. And I'm coming to you guys this evening because there are specific criteria for the ordinance that are not being upheld. And so we'd like to know we know we contact a zoning committee person. However, what happens when those when the zone ordinance is in violation? There's 3 properties currently that are in violation. In addition to when the ordinance was initially put in place, the grandfather clause, we thought, back in 2010 when it was initially instituted, related to the owners of the properties that were currently in place and not the property address. When I spoke with the zoning representative in the township, they told me that it was related to the property. So I need clarification on whether or not it was related to the property specifically or the owners at that time.
It would be the use. So as long as the use continues, it doesn't matter who the owner is. It would follow through. I'm assuming what you're saying is that the use would be considered, from a zoning perspective, non-conforming, meaning that the zoning ordinance has been changed, but this use has existed before the ordinance change in whatever fashion. So long as the use remains that, it may continue to do so, regardless of who owns it.
Okay, so the use, I understand that part. So then what about the following the code within the zoning?
Sure.
So there's 3 properties that I'm aware of right now that are not in compliance.
Right. So any enforcement issues have to be instituted by the zoning officer. That's Erin McPherson in this case. She's the one charged with enforcing the zoning ordinance provisions. So if there are things that are not being done and you have evidence of that, whether it's photos, recordings, documents, please make sure that you send, and I hate to say that to her since she's not here, but please send that to Erin because that's her charge. She's the one who oversees the zoning ordinance.
And I have done that, and I have not gotten the response that we in the community think was appropriate. Because there's 3 properties right now that currently have college students in them that are not on the approved list. They don't have any, they haven't filled out the necessary paperwork to be approved.
Can you give that information to staff before you leave tonight, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah,
Sure.
Either one of us, we'll follow up with Erin in the solicitor's office to take a look at that.
Okay, sure. I have no further questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Sean, can I ask you, so if I'm understanding, because I did get a list, and I wasn't talking to you, I had talked to Danielle, and I had to give her that. You're saying there's 3 new houses that have now became...
No, there's 3 houses that were on the list from before.
Right.
That have not gotten approval. We don't know who lives in them, because there are a total of 7, I believe, in the community. And there are 4 that are in compliance with the application, the approval, and the number of residents that are in there. However, the 3 that are in question, or one of the 3 that are in question, we believe has more than 3 participants that live in the home or residents that live in the home, and that is one of the criteria, that it can't be more than 3 students in the home. So, and that one in particular is not on the approved list.
I understand what you mean, yeah. They have to update that information on a regular basis. I think it's annually provide all of that information. So now that I understand exactly what you're talking about, yeah, if you could please provide the addresses so that follow-up can be done.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
we'll catch up right after this meeting. Let's talk for a minute.
Carlotta, did you say you have the list?
I did.
Okay, well, Erin and I will follow up with you.
Okay. All right, good.
Do you need the list, the 3 that are
If you
not?
have it, send it, great. Yeah, absolutely, either way. Yep.
Is this young man here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. All right. Any other citizen new matters?
Just quickly carrying on from our weather discussion. The lady from Painters Lane had a very good point, that you can plant trees now, and it's not, in fact, a bad time, but you have to water the trees, and Painters Lane clearly didn't want to. But the Environmental Advisory Committee and Open Land Conservancy are going to go ahead and plant some trees, thanks to some grant money from giant companies. And if the community would like to help in any way, plant some native trees with the EAC in Krabby Creek Park on the 26th of October, and with the Conservancy in our George Lorimer Preserve on North Valley Road on the 2nd of November, we'd very much enjoy their help. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark. That's a great announcement. Any other citizen new matters? The next meeting is November 6th. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh,
I think I may be out of order. Did I hear you say any more citizen new matters?
yes. Yes, I did.
Okay, well, I have a new matter.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm following the meeting on the Zoom. I recommend closed captions on the screen. It's probably going to fit with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Might be a good idea to follow that. It would be a lot easier to be able to read as well as hear. Some of this stuff comes through orally very well. I could hear Stephen Burgo very well. I heard Supervisor Johnson Pugh very well. Other people are just not coming through. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know whether it's actually the acoustics or the public address system or me.
Thanks, we'll take it
Okay.
under advisement. Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
sorry?
Thank you.
Did you say thank you?
Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome. I hope we can do it.
Yep, push the button. Any other citizen new matters? Now to the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor, aye. Thank you very much.